All right, I think we'll go ahead and get started. So welcome to another Forward in Energy Forum. We appreciate you all joining us here online today. My name is Scott Williams. I'm the Research and Education Coordinator at the Wisconsin Energy Institute, which is based at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. If this is your first time joining us for one of these Forward in Energy Forum events, the Wisconsin Energy Institute, our mission is to provide leadership on campus for multidisciplinary research, education, and outreach. And these efforts have a goal of accelerating the world to cleaner energy systems and solutions. So the Forward in Energy Forum is part of our efforts to educate and cultivate public understanding of energy issues. And the forum is a monthly series that brings together experts both on and off campus to discuss cross-disciplinary dialogue and exploring the important technical, social, political, and economic dimensions of a wide range of clean energy innovations and solutions. As we'll hear today from our moderator and our panelists about a new energy career pathway resource for students and educators in Wisconsin, we invite you to introduce yourselves in the chat and include what role you might be approaching this topic from, whether that's educator, student, employer, government, administrator, parent, or anything else. But before we get to that discussion, I do want to first acknowledge, as we close out Native American Heritage Month, the land that the Wisconsin Energy Institute occupies, as well as the entire UW-Madison, is the ancestral home of the Ho-Chunk people, who have called this land Dejop since time immemorial. We recognize and respect the inherent sovereignty of the Ho-Chunk Nation and the 11 other First Nations that reside in the boundaries of Wisconsin. And as we discussed in our forum that was held just a few weeks ago, tribal nations are often at the forefront of issues related to clean and just energy transition. And I encourage you all to learn more about the ways in which Native nations in Wisconsin and beyond are leading the way in this transition. Next, a few other announcements and logistical notes before we launch into the forum. Want to point out, again, we have a new podcast series from the Wisconsin Energy Institute called Propelling Women in Power, which highlights the stories of women energy researchers at WEI, as well as the Great Lakes Bioenergy Research Center. And it's a really great series to hear about different experiences, successes, and challenges of women energy researchers and their advice for young women in STEM. The first season wrapped up recently, but there is a new season planned. And so you can subscribe using the link or the QR code that's on the screen there to listen to all the episodes that have currently been run and subscribe for future episodes. Next, some logistical notes. If you have any questions for our panelists, we encourage you to use the Q&A box, and you have the option to upvote other attendees' questions if you'd like our panel to answer that particular question. And finally, live captioning has been turned on. You can toggle this feature using the live transcript button in Zoom. All right, and with that, to moderate today's panel, I'm pleased to introduce Samara Hamza, who is a Clean Energy Education Specialist at the Wisconsin K-12 Energy Education Program, or KEEP, which is based at UW-Stevens Point. Samara's focus at KEEP is to expedite the transition of Wisconsin schools to clean energy through teacher training, student leadership development, and career exploration programming, as well as connecting administrators to clean energy resources. She's been a driving force behind the updated energy career pathway in Wisconsin, which she will introduce in more detail along with our other panelists. So welcome, Samara.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to join us today or to listen to the recording later on. Our hosts are going to be dropping the link to the energy career pathway into the chat so that you have access to it to look at it on your screens in case you want to dig around and play around with it while we're talking to help inform some of the questions that you might have specifically about the energy career pathway. Before I introduce our panelists here, and actually their introduction is going to happen sort of as I go through the overview slides, I'm going to kind of take us out from the big picture. If you can go to the next slide, please, Scott. We're going to go from the big picture to zooming down on the student perspective. The template, thanks so much. So the really big picture is that we our global energy consumption has grown exponentially over the last 200 years. Over the last 2 decades, our installation of both renewable energy as well as storage has grown exponentially. But this is not the whole story. Next slide, please. We do have a crystal ball. We know from burning the fossil fuels to produce the electricity or to power our transportation systems that we have a lot of emissions that have come from this. Next slide, or next, click forward. There we go, same slide. Looking at the Keeling curve here, we can see that our carbon emissions, so the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, has increased exponentially as well as we extract and burn fossil fuels. So just yesterday, the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere was just over 416 parts per million. Stable climate can only be achieved with a rapid and just transition away from extraction and combustion of fossil fuels for our energy needs. Next slide, or click forward, please. And we're undergoing right now a generational transition. We need for today's students to go into energy careers so that we can move away from fossil fuels and move towards renewable energy and reduced energy consumption. And this is not a dreamy thing of the future. The map that we're seeing here is the locations of proposed utility scale energy projects. And we're looking at the MISO queue. MISO is the Mid-Continent Systems Operator. The yellow circles are proposed solar, the green is proposed wind, and the gray is proposed transmission and battery storage. So we can see what the future, this is what is literally in the pipeline for energy in Wisconsin in the coming years. Next slide, please. So we've looked at the big picture, but our collective job here is how do we take this student who's like, oh my gosh, what do I do with my life, and help them get into energy and figuring out what that golden arrow is. And all of us are part of the golden arrow solution. Next slide. So here's an example of our perfect scenario. We have a happy student with good family relationships, get along well with friends. They're doing well in school and the teacher notices them. They have a guidance counselor who notices them and is saying, hey, have you thought about this? Maybe the teacher's doing that as well. And our job is right down there in that gray dotted line of supporting the teachers and the guidance counselors to be like, hey, if you have students who are shining in these areas, maybe we can help them get into education and training that leads towards energy careers. Of course, life is not that easy. And in the next 4 slides, I'm going to be showing the boundaries and location maps for all the partners that need to be in harmony in that gray dotted line so that all students have the opportunity to discover their own golden arrow, whether it's in the energy career pathway or in any of the other 6 and multiple others that are in development right now at DPI. And just a word of warning, I am not a cartographer. Nor am I a graphic designer, so my maps are tools I use for myself, and hopefully they relay the information that they need to, but please, they are not the most beautiful maps you will have ever seen. Next slide, please. Our first map here is of the career regions around Wisconsin, and so these are loosely based off of the WEDC lines, but WEDC has more regions around the state. But in areas of sparser student population, those have been collapsed into geographically large regions with similar student population sizes. So we have 7 career regions, and this is, if you want to think of this map as, this is the map of industry. This is where educators all the way from DPI through the CISAs to the actual school districts and school buildings get to hear from industry what their forthcoming and current needs are. And of course, industry works very closely with the Department of Workforce Development. Next slide, please. And Allison is going to drop in the chat the link to this dashboard that you can see. So I find this is probably the quantitatively one of the best resources that is out there. It shows the development of a youth apprenticeship participation in Wisconsin across multiple sectors. And a couple of trends to see here is that in each of the areas where we're tracking them, we start small and we grow, with the exception, of course, of the hospitality industry that took a hit during COVID, but it will hopefully be rebounding. So we can anticipate that energy will have a similar trend as well. The other place I'd like to draw your attention to in here are the top right and left corners, is the ratio of youth apprentices to employers. So we have a little bit over 2 students per employer for our youth apprenticeships right now. So to connect a student to an employer means it takes a lot of us who are out there in the field to make those matches happen in a meaningful way that helps a student find their future or eliminate a future that they've been thinking about, as well as they explore a career while they're still a student in our K-12 schools. Thanks. Next slide, please. This is the map of the 12 CSAs in Wisconsin. And each of the CSAs has an academic and career planning coordinator. And we'll be hearing more about that from Lynn April in a few minutes here. But the CSAs are really a critical link between industry and the work-based learning experiences, such as the youth apprenticeships that we saw in the last graph, that are available to our students. And I'll take a moment here to introduce Lynn. Lynn spent 27 years in the classroom before serving as academic and career planning coordinator for CSA 8. She now heads up the Education for Economic Development department for both CSAs 8 and 9. These include all initiatives to help students with career readiness, including regional career pathways, Zello and Inspire, as well as youth apprenticeships. So thank you, Lynn, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Next slide, please. In this slide, yep, it's getting even busier, and I dropped out just for, so we don't all go nuts here, I dropped out the boundaries for the regional career, the career regions. So just imagine that there's 7 more big lines running through here as well. The red boundaries are each of the 421 school districts. The colored blobs are each of the 12 CSAs, and the blue dots represent the 2,300 and some K-12 public schools that we have in Wisconsin. Among those, we have 712 public high schools with a total of about 3,000 public and private schools serving over 800,000 K-12 students in Wisconsin. So that to me is just remarkable, that we have great opportunity, but we also have really heavy work to be doing out here when we take a look at that. Unfortunately, this evening, Jessa Doms from DPI will not be able to join us, but hopefully collectively myself and Lynn and Adam and maybe members of the audience as well can help sort of fill in what DPI's role has been and how DPI is supporting the pathways. But I will still take a moment here to introduce Jessa. She is the Technology and Engineering Education Consultant at DPI, as well as the Skills USA State Director. In part, her role supports technology and engineering education work being done across the state. And now on to our final map, please. And the last bit that I'll have to say here. So we're still trying to get students to find their golden arrow. Teachers and guidance counselors help students along the trajectory of exploring careers, planning for them, and going through them either through education and or directly into the workforce. Part of this process is students using career exploration tools like Zello and then drilling down into possible careers that they are matched with or that they excel with using the career pathways. These pathways then, and this is on the second page if you already have the live link on another screen, these pathways have several components. Lynn's going to be talking about that, but they can help match students to tech ed classes, CTE student organizations like Skills USA, FFA, HOSA, and other ones that are out there, as well as dual enrollment classes that are aligned with a pathway. And so our other guest panelist here is Adam Whaling. He is Dean at Chippewa Valley Technical College and manager of the Energy Education Center and Transportation Education Center. CVTC has multiple high school academies that are aligned with the energy career pathway and other pathways. And these academies offer participating students the opportunity to earn college credit while still in high school. So that's sort of the bit I have to bring us all together so that we can have the big picture, small picture. And I think I'll open it up now for Lynn, if you would like to share some points about how what your role is with the different pathways, and maybe even in particular the energy career pathway.
Sure. Just to take a step back to academic and career planning, which you mentioned, 5 years ago, according to PI 26 legislation that was passed in the state of Wisconsin, all districts needed to put together an academic and career planning program for grades 6 through 12 in their districts. So that's when, we know that districts have been doing great things to help students connect with careers before that legislation went into effect. But it was really about putting together a system to make sure that students were continually hearing about academic and career planning every year, and then coming up with a plan by the time they graduated, that this is what I'm going to be doing post-graduation. 3 years ago, as part of academic and career planning, the state of Wisconsin also started putting together regional career pathways. So that was definitely connected to the work being done with Carl Perkins. And so the Carl Perkins legislation, which many of our districts take advantage of, allows districts to write grants for funding for their CTE areas. And those funds have to be directed toward a regional career or a career pathway. Could be a regional career pathway or a local pathway. So that's when, again, the state of Wisconsin kind of got involved and said, well, let's do this in a systematic fashion. For a couple of years, they were in pilot phase to determine the best way to create these regional career pathways and come up with a system for us to do this across the state. And now we're in year 3 of creating regional career pathways across the state of Wisconsin. So if you want to go back to the slide that had that career ladder, the work really starts perfect at the state level. So the state, in looking at labor market information across the state of Wisconsin, for high need, high wage areas that we really need students to know about in each of the different career clusters, they determine which career clusters to start with. And so the STEM energy pathway is just one of the pathways that is available as a regional career pathway. We also have things like the business suite of business administration and marketing and finance. We've got patient care, manufacturing, architecture, and construction. So we have a number of them available to districts already, regions and districts in order to use. So we get from the state this lovely template. And what they do is they gather a group of experts, and I believe Adam was one of those experts that was on the panel, that they take a look at this particular pathway for the career cluster, and they make some determinations as far as what are the subcategories that we want to identify in this particular career cluster. And then at each different education level, from going directly into the workforce from high school all the way through certifications and technical diplomas, registered apprenticeships, associate degrees, and bachelor's degrees and beyond, what are the types of careers that students could enter in with each of those education levels? And of course, we can't put everything into the map. So usually we find 5 to 7 careers in each one of the boxes. And then also a salary range, so that students understand that if you're coming into the field right out of high school, or perhaps with a certification, that salary range is going to look different than if you have moved up the career ladder and you now have your bachelor's degree. So once the state has created this template, The template then gets handed off to the regions. And again, each region of those 7 regions that Samara talked about as far as the regional career pathway regions takes a look at their labor market information for their particular area of the state. We also do an asset scan of the coursework that's already being taught at our high schools in those areas, and we make determinations as to what makes the most sense for us to create as a regional career pathway for our region. So we take this template and we do the exact same thing that the state did. We get together with a group of experts in the field in our region. So I'm the pathways coordinator from the North Central region of Wisconsin. So we gather experts from the North Central region, in this case would be around energy. And we literally, over about a 2-hour period, look at every single box and every single job title that the state has identified as potential careers to include in our map. And we make a determination for our region. Is this what we want to have in the box? Are these the jobs that make the most sense for North Central Wisconsin, for example? Are there careers that aren't on the map that we think are very important to highlight in our area of the state? Are there careers that are in one box at one education level, perhaps that really, when we're looking at those folks being hired, we're really looking at them having a different education level, and so things get moved around, new careers get added, sometimes careers get taken away. So we really personalize this career ladder page per region. And it makes it really interesting because students can then see, as an example, for manufacturing in North Central Wisconsin, if you look at our career map, one of the careers that we've included is a forest products buyer, because the forestry industry is huge in North Central Wisconsin. That's not a career you're going to find in the manufacturing regional career pathway in any other area of the state, only in North Central Wisconsin, because that's where that career is very important. So it gives us an opportunity to make sure that the maps that we're using with our students in the region really are representative of the careers that students can find in the region. You'll see some circles on the map here, and those circles align to Zello, which Samara alluded to. If that particular career title can be found exactly in that way on the Zello platform that students are using for their career research, it has that little circle. And then each of these careers is live linked to My Next Move, which is the student version of ONET. And the little flame behind some of the careers shows that that's a hot job. So that means that that is a career that is increasing in its opportunities for students. And then we all have, of course, our higher education partners as well. Students, as they're looking at this left-hand column, see that, you know, there are certifications and technical diplomas and associate degrees. Where do I find this? So by clicking on the link on the bottom of the page that says click here for post-secondary options, that takes students to a live linked page on the DPI website that shows students all of these different education opportunities with our partners in each one of the regions. So if they're clicking on that from North Central Wisconsin, they'll see these program options for education at NTC, Midstate, Nicolet, NWTC, and UW-Stevens Point. And each map then is aligned to the higher ed partners in their particular region. So that's the career ladder page. If you go to the next slide, this is where the districts then get involved. So we personalize this career ladder page. And if we can click on the next slide. There we go. This is the page that districts can then personalize. So every district that wants to offer a regional career pathway in energy has 5 different components that they can offer. They must have a sequence of at least 2 career and technical education courses that are either taught by a licensed CTE teacher or somebody who is employed by a technical college or a 4-year college. Many of our districts have more than 2 classes, but you need at least 2. And then from there, there are 4 other components that are part of the career pathway map that districts need to have, according again to Carl Perkins legislation. They need to offer at least 2 other components of the 4. And those other 4 components are a career and technical student organization. So again, the DPI gives us suggestions of which would be the best career and technical student organizations to align to this particular pathway. work-based learning opportunities. Youth Apprenticeship is, of course, the Cadillac version of that at 450 hours, which is overseen by the DWD. But we also have some other opportunities like the state's employability skills certification, the co-op programs that are available at the DPI as well. And then districts can put together their own work-based learning program. The state has a great guidebook that there are 6 different criteria that have to be met in order for a work-based learning program to be approved by the state, but a district can certainly do that as well. The third component would be industry recognized credentials. So what are some credentials that students can get while they're still in high school that would help them to, maybe edge out some other candidates for careers when they go to apply after they have graduated. And then college credit opportunities, whether they're transcripted credit or early college credit or Start College Now, where are the opportunities that students can start working on those certifications, those technical diplomas, those associate and bachelor's degrees while they're still in high school. So a district would sit down with this page and they would determine the components that they're going to offer and then fill in all of the components that they're offering to students. And what a great opportunity for districts to then use that in scheduling with 8th graders, for example, that you can really help a student as they're coming into high school, if they're interested in a particular career cluster, to help them to determine, which classes they should take, and they can start charting that out over a 4-year period. They can start planning ahead for the 2 years that they could do work-based learning, for example, youth apprenticeship, that, they have to take certain classes freshman and sophomore years to make sure that they've got room in their schedules to work during the day, their junior and senior years. So this particular page is really a great benefit to districts to be able to do that planning with students and help them to really prepare for a career in that particular pathway before they graduate. And I am going to hand it back to Samara, and I'm sure Adam will be adding more information.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Lynn. That really helps me, even though I've been doing this work for a bit over a year. Every time I go into the pathway, I learn new components of it because it's an excellent tool, but it's a really complicated tool, like a multi-hour board game. And I'm always like trying to figure out what the rules are. So each time I learn something new, and I really appreciate that. And that is one thing I failed to mention, I think, when I kind of the nerves of getting started here, but keep stepping in and being part of the revision of the energy pathway. It did not start with me at all. My previous colleagues, Annie Baker and Sarah Winju before her, really are the ones from KEEP who are so important and seminal to this work and getting it going and being sure that there is strong collaboration among the multiple partners that are involved with energy education around the state. So I want to be sure that that recognition goes to all the people who are involved here. I'll pass it over to Adam now and ask how, kind of, for your perspective on energy career pathway and how this ties in with your work at CVTC.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for having me be a part of the energy panel here tonight. So yeah, I work over here at Chippewa Valley Technical College in Eau Claire is our home base, and we stretch everywhere from River Falls on the western side of Wisconsin all the way over to Neillsville, and then we have our district goes north south from there. So anyway, we're pretty involved in the energy training and the programs here. So when we look at our core energy programs that we do have an electrical power distribution technical diploma, gas utility technical diploma. We have a 4-year lineman apprenticeship training. We also have a renewable energy training programs. And then we just talk a lot in our construction programs about energy conservation, energy management. So there's just a lot that we're involved in. And we actually have an energy education center that we built back in 2015. I believe the link was just put into the chat here. If you are interested in learning more about our programs that we have, learning about the Energy Center, it really is a learning lab. So what we're trying to do is not only provide people an opportunity to learn about energy and get connected to a career that they can get into, but we also want to just make sure that people can see, how should a commercial building be energy efficient? What are the different types of energy that you can integrate into these systems? So, we're not only, again, educating students who want to get into careers, we're educating people off the street, business owners, community leaders, members, because that's what we do. We educate in every way we can, in every forum. So when we see energy here, I'm kind of speaking on behalf of a lot of the technical college programs in the state. There's a lot of momentum for the energy careers. We're in a very unique time frame where we're seeing a lot of renewable energy that's being integrated into our lives. Energy storage, the transportation industry is integrating a lot of electric vehicles and plug-in hybrids. So there's this great interconnection now of other trade sectors that are all focusing in and really coming back to energy and how are we going to produce energy, how are we going to make it more sustainable, cleaner, better for the environment. So again, there's a lot of momentum. And when we look at the type of employees that our employers are looking for out there, they really want somebody that, they can, let's get to the fundamentals here. They need to show up every day. They need to be willing to work, learn, grow. We know that the skills that they're going to learn, maybe if they go to a training school today, maybe not the exact same set of skills you're going to have in 5 or 10 years. So they need to be adaptable. In a lot of our energy programs, people need to pass a drug test every day. So if you're operating a CDL in some of these careers, you need to be able to pass that drug test every single day. And that's a very important safety conscious industry standard that we have. Safety is of utmost importance in many of these energy programs. So again, these are just some very high level items that we wanted to share about the momentum of the industry and the type of worker that we're seeing. But there's a place for a lot of people in the energy industry, and we just want to make sure that people know that. So when it comes to exploring careers, some of the things I just wanted to drop out here in the introduction is that people want to call up their energy company if they want to go visit a solar panel installer. I mean, just be an advocate for yourself and say, I'm interested in learning more about this. I'm going to pick up the phone. I'm going to go talk to somebody. I'm going to visit somebody, and we're going to find an opportunity to learn more about it. Or I'm going to go to a technical school or university, and I'm going to ask the questions. I'm going to get connected with somebody. Like, that's what we need people to do, because we know that these energy training programs are not fully invested in every high school that's out there. I mean, high schools, their teachers are limited to their experiences and the training that they've received, and not everybody has energy training. So we need to make sure that people are advocates for themselves. If they want to get into energy, their school doesn't offer it, figure out a way to go learn, ask more questions about it. So if you're an employer out there, we need to be paving ways too to getting people on, because they may not be learning about it in schools. So when it comes to the technical college system, there are 16 of the schools, as Samara mentioned. Not every school is offering all energy programs, so it's important to know that there's a little bit of a regionalization of some of the training. So when you look at schools like electrical power distribution, there's quite a few of us. You can go to Green Bay, you can go to Wausau, you can go to Beaver Dam, Eau Claire, Fenimore, Milwaukee. There's all sorts of different locations you can get it. Gas utility doesn't quite have as many, and renewable energy is a different scattering of schools. So again, it's important to know that every school does things a little bit differently. And then the length of the program, how it may be embedded into another program, are all a little bit different. And people may ask why. In our technical college systems, we are delivering training kind of tailored to our regional demands and our regional needs. So that's why you're going to see different offerings in different school technical college regions. Okay. So at a very high level, that's kind of the introduction here. I'm very excited about energy. Been involved in education for 20 years. I was a high school agriculture teacher for 12 years. So I've been a part of the original discussions on career pathways, and now we're reinventing them in a new way, and it's exciting to see. So Samara, kicking it back to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I see we already have a question in the Q&A here, but I have some burning questions of my own. And since I have the privilege of being at the podium, I'm gonna go ahead and ask. Lynn, so you were saying that you're within the regions, you do an asset scan to see, is this what we want to have in the box? So we have all the boxes by the different education levels and so on. when does that happen? Like, do you want outside voices to come to the table when you're doing that in your regions, and how do people find out about that?
Absolutely. So every one of the 7 regional career pathway consortiums are required to have 2 meetings per year, one in the fall and one in the spring. That is a collaborative event that invites all of the different partners to the table to kind of do exactly what I just did with the map, kind of going through, this is what the regional career pathways are all about, and then also sharing opportunities for them to get involved. So usually we have had ours, for example, in September, and then generally we have through October and November, we will have those industry partner meetings where we will take a look at the career ladder page and really personalize that for our region. So based on, we get some of those folks who self-identify from that regional collaborative meeting, we connect with our technical college and university partners and ask them who are folks that are working in this area that would be great to have at the table. We reach out to youth apprenticeship employers, because we know they're already engaged with students at that level for working with these career pathways. So through a variety of means, we get a list of folks to reach out to. And then, like I said, usually it's one meeting of about 2 hours that we sit down and really dig into each one of these careers and determine if it's in the right spot, if it is titled the right way, and is this what we want on the map. And then from there, sometimes we will send that out to, if there is a regional collaborative, like an association in our region, we will send it off to them to take a look at. Things like groups like the Central Wisconsin, there's SHWEDA, the Central Wisconsin IT Association, those kinds of, so if there is an association, we will send it off to them, but then inevitably it has to go back to the state to take a look at and determine if we've got everything that we need on that career ladder page. We also make sure that the salary ranges are appropriate for our area of the state. So the DPI takes a look at that and approves it before we get it back and can roll it out to school districts. So looking timeline wise, September we'll have that regional collaborative meeting. October and November we'll do the personalization of that career ladder page. We send those, we kind of finalize those within our regions and get those back to the state in February or March. And then usually we'll get those back in April, then that we can then roll out to districts for the next year. So it's kind of a year long of building it in our region and then being able to get it to districts to put into effect the next school year.
I'm going to ask only one more question of my own before going over to the audience, because I see there's a couple more questions there. And as our hosts have said, if a question comes to you, please use the Q&A for that. But I'm wondering, so once a pathway has been personalized for a particular region, how does a school district then say, yep, we're going to bring this pathway and use it within our school district? Like, does every school district within that region, like, is it available to every student in that region, or does a school district need to say, we're going to actively work on promoting this among our students?
Yep, exactly. The second one. So they determine based on the coursework that they have, if they have 3 of the 5 components like the requirement is, and if they've determined through their looking at the labor market information for their own school district, is this a career cluster that we want to create a regional career pathway on. And so they would then determine that and create this page and then roll that out to students. So manufacturing, as an example, in our North Central region, I think all of our school districts have a manufacturing pathway because they all had the coursework and the other components in place already. Patient care, on the other hand, I think we have 7 of our 38 districts that have a regional career pathway in patient care for a combination of reasons. Some of it is just a difficulty in finding the right CTE teachers to teach those. Some of them, they already have so many career and technical student organizations, for example, that they just don't have room for one more, and you would need HOSA for that. So it's really up to the districts to determine if this is a regional career pathway that they're going to offer in their district. You're still on mute, Samara.
Thank you. Someday we'll learn. So I'm going to go to the first question in the Q&A here from John Dobbins. He's asking, what's the percent of districts, especially high schools, that are using Zello, the number of kids of total Wisconsin high school students with Zello accounts?
I wish I knew that number. I did immediately on seeing John's question, sent an email to our rep at Zello and I copied and pasted the question. So I will get that tracked down. 100% of districts in the state have it available. Whether 100% of the districts are using it or not, I don't have the answer to that question. I think in the CISA 8 and 9 region, just to give you an example, I think there, to my knowledge, there's one large district in CISA 9 that was using an alternate platform. I think every other district was using Zello in some fashion across CISAs 8 and 9, but I could not tell you across the state the percentage of districts that are using it or the number of students that are on it. But we can definitely track that information down.
And then the flip side of that, so that's the student perspective. From the opportunities perspective, John's asking, does each UW school have a Zello contact if they need to upload information regarding associate's and bachelor's degrees in different areas?
I don't know, Adam, if you know that answer. We really don't. Beyond working with our higher ed partners on the regional career pathways, we really do not work with our UW system schools on Zello particularly, because we're only tasked with working with our K-12s. So I don't have the answer to that question.
Yeah, I've not done a lot of work with Zello. It's not to say that other schools are not, but I can tell you that we are working to build pathways from high schools to us and from us to UW schools. That is, this pathway model is very common, and we want to make sure that people understand that, a 2-year technical college or a 1-year tech diploma, whatever, we can be a part of anybody's 4-year journey. So it's just important that people understand that, just because that terminal degree is out there doesn't mean that you can't get more localized training pieces as a part of that.
Thank you.
As a follow-up to John's question, not on Zello, but definitely with our regional career pathways, every single one of our UW system, whether it is our 4-year colleges or our 2-year colleges, all of their programs are linked to those regional career pathways, to that career ladder page when students click on that button on the bottom that sends them to programs. So, and they're all live linked right back to our higher ed partners. So that would be the place that we would direct our students to. I think that would be a lot more effective for them finding exactly the information they're looking for than on Zello, which is much more general information.
Okay. I'm gonna just jump over to the chat because there's questions coming in there as well. This is from Jim Zerbel. He's asking, do these regions, so our 7 career regions around the state, align with the regional economic partnerships? And do they have because he's saying because they have a good handle of what's going on in industry? Thank you, Scott. So I can just say they loosely align with it. There's some wiggling around, but what's in the background on this map, those light gray lines in each of the colored polygons, are the economic regions of WEDC.
Yeah, absolutely. The reason that, for example, the North Central region looks larger than one particular redo is because we combined 2 of them to make the North Central region, Grow North and Centergy. The pink one, for example, that's all New North. So right. They really do very closely follow the redo boundaries. It's just in some areas, because of population, as you mentioned before, Samara, we were able to combine 2 of them together in order to do the work.
Thank you. I have a sort of follow-up question, I guess, going into more the work-based learning experiences. I know that we have some employers in industry that are in the audience here. If any of them wants to host a cooperative student or a youth apprentice, like who do they contact? What's their next step?
That's a great question. The DWD website for youth apprenticeship actually has a list of all of the different regions of the state, and the regional coordinator for every one of the youth apprenticeship consortiums. So that would be a great place to start. If you if you've got connections with your local school districts, you can also contact your local school districts and get connected directly with the local youth apprenticeship coordinator. And in either of those situations, or you could also contact your CISA in your area. Every CISA either has somebody on staff who is a youth apprenticeship coordinator or knows who that person would be. So any of those avenues would get you to a person, and we would love to have more businesses that are interested in working with our students through co-ops and youth apprenticeships. That would be really exciting.
And I would like to offer, since I work at the state level with all of the different partners that Lynn just mentioned, if you just don't have the time for that, send me an email. I love sleuthing for these kinds of things. So I'd appreciate that. I'm going to switch back to the Q&A here. Victoria Rydberg asks, she's wondering if any programs integrate entrepreneurial skills as part of their ACP work to show students possibilities to forge their own path. So rather than us, the adults in here dictating, like, these are kind of the maps for getting where you need to get to. She asked, where does entrepreneurship best fit in our ACP programs? Thank you for the question, Victoria. Any ideas?
So I can't speak for a lot of what's going on in the high school, but here in the post-secondary, we do integrate a lot of post-secondary entrepreneurial skill sets, and we have those foundational soft skills that, whether you're working for somebody else or you're being an entrepreneur, you need to have those communication skills, ability to work with people. So again, we're embedding that in. We know that not everybody's going to be an entrepreneur when they start, but there's a lot of people that will end up being an entrepreneur, or at least having a side business doing something in the future. So again, I can't say what's going on in the high school, but that's what we're doing here in the post-secondary. We actually do have full-out entrepreneurship programs that if people want to specialize and do that work, they can. And we even have transcript or credit opportunities or start college now opportunities where students could take those kind of courses while they're in high school. They can finish an entrepreneurship program if they want, and then they could jump into another trade or energy career, and then they can contextualize that entrepreneurship skill set in that industry.
And although I have no personal experience with this, the CTE opportunities that are available to students, I think whether it's DECA, FFA, Skills USA, all of them have an entrepreneurship component to them. So if a student has a passion in a particular area, they might be able to be nurtured in that way. But just kind of me and the idea that I came up with as we're chatting here.
No, I think you're on the right track, Samara, that, you see more and more school districts that actually have, kind of part of their Fab Lab, but part of their CTE program that they actually have a business, and students are out taking orders from the community and then coming back and creating whatever it is that those customers need. And so definitely students are getting some of that in that aspect. Even the DWD has started to think about the career pathways for youth apprenticeship. And we have had a couple of instances where students were interested in, like, kids have these side hustles now. So, like having they're selling, vintage clothing on Instagram, and can that, can they do that as youth apprenticeship? So we're starting to think about what that would look like within the parameters of youth apprenticeship, and how entrepreneurship could be identified and promoted through youth apprenticeship. So we're getting started.
Yeah, I love that we are there. I think different from how things may have been a decade or two ago. There's an opportunity for student voice in all the work that we do now. Not that they know that that opportunity is there, but I think we would all welcome it, whether it's for actually working or picking up skills or just sharing their ideas and perspectives with us. I just want to draw your attention, if people haven't had a chance to look in the chat, Beth Kaminsky, who's at DPI and a colleague of Jessa, wanted to draw our attention that if you're looking at the bottom right-hand link on the pathway map here, it has at the word here. Scott, if you could go down one slide, that don't click on it, but if you did, in a few weeks, when you click on the word here, it will be a live link that will then take the person who's using it to look for post-secondary and college credit options that are available to students. And I know Beth is working on that right now, and some of the people who are in the audience and on the call are I've shared their names and emails, so you'll be hearing from Beth about that, because we definitely want students to be able to see that. And Jennifer, I'm guessing Peck is pointing us to the fact that CSA 10 has Youth Apprentice Job Board as well. So if there are other CSAs who are looking at a model, that might be a place to look for how to do that. And Jennifer, if you want to put a link in the chat at some point, that'd be maybe it's there. I don't know. Oh, there it is. All right. I don't read super fast. All right, now I'm going to look ahead.
Something else,
oh,
just
thank you.
To help our businesses think about, I mean, youth apprenticeship and co-ops kind of are the first thing that come to mind when we're making connections between students and businesses. But when we look at some of these other components that are on the screen right now, I think there's some opportunities for businesses to get involved in some of those other components as well. You know, could they sponsor, for example, a Skills USA chapter? Some of the work, you know, students are going to do competitions, and there's travel, and there's clothing that students have. They have to have appropriate clothing for going to these things. So that might be a great opportunity for a business to come in and make connections with students. Also, those industry recognized credentials. Sometimes it's difficult for us to know where to point students to get that OSHA 10 training, for example, but it's something that a local manufacturer is doing with their new employees every few weeks. So if they would invite, you know, the local high school to send students over that need that training and have them just be a part of it with their employees, that would be a great benefit. So I think that we can see some new opportunities for businesses making those connections with students by looking at these components.
And I think another, just do a shout out to one of our programs at KEEP, we have Green Teams MiniGrant it's designed for student green teams, but really it's for any group of students who have a passion and an idea for how to reduce carbon footprint of their school. And it's geared towards energy education, but our carbon footprint comes from all sorts of different ways that we live and interact in society. So that could be good seed money for a project. And the grant is specifically developed for students, not for teachers, to help them develop and build those life skills that they would need as far as budgeting and longevity, sustainability of a program, and thinking about the longer and larger impacts to their communities as well. Thank you. Looking to see what was there. A sticking point that has come up for me that I really wondered about, and I'm hoping that Adam and Lynn and maybe members of the audience might have some ideas about this as well. Any of the pathways has two career tech ed classes that are aligned, that go with that complement the pathway. Energy is this like funny nebulous thing, because everything we do interacts with energy. So you might have a construction class that maybe would align, but it might be more a STEM class that would align. And I'm wondering, like, do we need more CTE classes out there in the high schools? And we already have teachers who are at capacity and doing the most they can do, or can we redefine and find within what's already out there what would be acceptable as paired classes that would go with this pathway? And who determines that? Is that done at the district level or at DPI level or somewhere in the middle?
I can tell you here at Chippewa Valley Tech College that we had this discussion the other day that when we look at a lot of the schools that are doing energy training, we know that there's not a lot of schools that have a direct connection. However, we're seeing the foundational skill sets. So we're looking at math classes, science, biology, chemistry, agriculture, CTE, family consumer, and any of these feeder programs, there is a connection, some spark that can be connected. It's not the straightest line. However, we just need to make sure that we can spark an interest, get people excited, and then come explore. And a lot of people forget too, there's a lot of careers in the energy sector that may be business, professional, managerial careers that, what we see is there's a lot of people that get into these types of careers and then they grow into other areas within their organizations. So I think it's important to kind of look at, it's a wider net than most pathways that we see.
Super, thank you. So I know that in KEEP, which is part of the Wisconsin Center for Environmental Education, as well as our funders, which are the 6 investor-owned utilities, all of us have a vision of being more equitable in our work and really lifting up individuals and populations that have perhaps not had the opportunity to achieve their full potential in all sorts of different areas in society. And so we know there's lots of barriers that are out there that can keep students from reaching their potential. And I like for us collectively as a group here, because we have a lot of different people who are, you can see on the screen and who are in the room, to think about like, what can we actually control within our own programs, within our own systems, where we can make changes or ask questions that would make the energy career pathway accessible to as many students as possible. So I guess that's not a question, but an ask of the audience and us as well, because I've been thinking about that a lot for KEEP, is how can I help students access energy careers more fully, because there's amazing potential out there.
And I think that I know that is really embedded in all of the work of the Regional Career Pathways and Carl Perkins. Perkins 5 actually required districts every other year. So last year, every district that was applying for Carl Perkins funding had to do a comprehensive local needs assessment. And they gathered information from students, from parents, from faculty members, from community members to find out. And that's one of the things that they are trying to discover is, are we making sure that we are accessible to all of our special populations? And if we're not, what can we do about that? So districts last year, by doing that, CLNA is the acronym for that local needs assessment. By doing that local needs assessment, they then identify gaps, especially with their special populations, as far as all of the different components of the regional career pathways. And then the funds that they get for Carl Perkins are to be directed to building that particular pathway and making sure that they're attending to those gaps that they are identifying across the special populations. So whether it's the regional career pathways themselves or the Carl Perkins work that's being done, and really everything that's being done at the DPI, every project that we do, we're always thinking about equity. But that's a great thing for districts to be keeping in mind as they are doing, all of their work, but especially this work is, what special populations are you not seeing in these classes, and how can you make sure that those are accessible?
So here at the technical colleges, we are doing utility and energy preview days. So these are opportunities for students that are thinking maybe about doing this to come on campus, operate some equipment, ride in a bucket truck, talk to the students that are in the program, climb some poles, look at some solar panels, do some interconnections. I mean, so we're giving these people a hands-on opportunity to do some work that they're doing. Now, this is in addition to all the career tours and the one-on-one tours and all of the other, personalization of recruitment into these programs that we now require, because students, it's all about relationship building. They need to have that relationship. They need to feel comfortable in that relationship before they take that venture to go do that training or get a job. But another thing that we did in partnership with Northwood Community College and St. Croix Valley Home Builders is we did a Build My Future event, and I'm putting that in the chat right now. So this year we had over 1,000 students that came from Western Wisconsin and the Eastern Twin Cities metro area. And we had all of the construction related programs. So anything that touches the construction work cycle, they were all represented there, including the energy programs. So it was a full day, free to the schools, free to the students. They got lunch and they all came in and they were operating equipment, and they were roofing, nailing, siding, insulating, pouring concrete, operating excavators, climbing poles, you name it. I mean, it was all a part of that. So yes, energy is a part of that greater construction cluster with how we kind of categorize things here. So we wanted to make sure that we got, a lot of non-traditional students interested, because again, where does this fall in the high school? What class does it closely align to? It doesn't. So we just got students that are generally interested in this bigger cluster there. And then those people that were interested in energy, we pulled them out, and we're doing a lot more one-on-one follow-ups with those students afterward. So Build My Future, there's another one that happened in Wausau, I believe, this fall, and there's another one that's going to happen down in La Crosse. But just to see where these can go is they started out, I believe, down in Missouri, and that one's over 3,000 students every year. And then down in Iowa, they're doing one down in Des Moines, it's over 5,000 students. So talk about a tremendous career exploration. Like, this is how savvy we need to be. This is a joint effort between industries, schools, and high schools to all work together to get people excited and interested about careers in the trade sector, energy, construction.
So who pays for this? Sorry to ask the question, but there it is.
Yeah, the employers really look at it as this is a workforce investment. So they're sponsoring the event, and then they're promoting it. They're working side by side with the technical colleges that are doing the training, that are feeding them employees, and the high school students. So again, if you go to the website, it's really well laid out. So yeah, for us, it's fantastic. The schools didn't cost them anything. They just had to get there. They had to show up.
So I'm wondering, because one of the big challenges that not just Keep and our partner program Leaf face, but really all of us who are service providers for doing professional development for teachers, is the teachers want to come, but there are no substitute teachers out there. So we need to do something that allows the teachers to either come with their students, or where we lift the students out of the class and bring them to the opportunity so that the teachers can remain in the school building. So I'm wondering, in this model, did the teachers travel then with their students?
Yeah. In a lot of cases, the teachers are bringing all of their students with them. So no need for a sub when you have all the students with you.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There are some schools that are bringing well over 100 students there.
Yeah, I imagine the teachers really really appreciated that, because they get to be at the front line of like what some of the newer technologies and things that are out there, which, if you're going to college to study to be a teacher, you don't necessarily get to go out to a construction site and not just see these things, but maybe get up in the cab or something like that. So we have a question from Maria Hart here. I just need to quick read it. She's asking, I'm wondering if all CTE students are exposed to basic climate change literacy, and what are the climate impacts in their region, and touch upon the advanced technologies. So do either of you know if climate change literacy is embedded in any of our CTE classes? And she gives the example here, embodied carbon is a hot topic in the construction field. I love that.
Talk a lot about efficiencies and building inefficiencies and lean manufacturing practices. I mean, all of this stuff is all about reducing waste, reducing time. It all comes down to efficiencies, especially with such tight margins that are out there right now. So while it's not maybe specifically addressed with these types of words, I think we're addressing it in other ways that students are practically addressing. But at the technical college level, not all of our programs are getting into the very heavy theoretical, climate change, topics.
I know for us at Keep, that's one of the places where we've really pivoted in our centering our work on equity and climate change and energy careers. Those are the three overarching themes for all the work we do in all the different areas that we do our work, whether it's professional development, student engagement, the materials and activities we have, is to be really explicit about how each of the lessons that we share with teachers has climate literacy really built into it as well, because it's critical is what it is. So it's a disservice to our students if we're not sharing the full picture with them. Great. Are there other questions? I'm sorry, go ahead, Lynn.
I was just going to say, and I'm not sure at the high school level, I think definitely, as Adam was saying, you know, I see components of lean manufacturing, for example, being done in the classes. So that kind of language and those efficiencies, but I'm not sure, you know, especially at the secondary level, how much they're actually getting into climate change literacy, or if that is being done like in the science realm, in some of the science classes rather than in some of the CTE classes. That would be interesting.
I do want to shout out to our largest school district in the state, MPS, Milwaukee Public Schools, which has a climate justice curriculum coordinator who is actively integrating climate justice K-12 through all the curricula. And I think that's a great model for the state as well, because it's a lot to ask for individual teachers to be able to do this, because and it's not just climate change, it's climate solutions. Like our students know there's a problem out there. All you have to do is turn on the news. The problems are out there. They want to know how they can fix it, how they can be part of the solution in this planet that they get to live on and we get to grow old in. So we've got to get this work done. And I like the holistic model of doing it throughout an entire school district as well. Bringing us back to the actual pathway here. So we had this thing just as hot off the presses. I don't know how that works and when it's on 2D digital thing here, but there it is. Old expression for a new technology. What are our next steps for this pathway? Like, where do we go from here? So we've got this PDF link. Where do we go?
So the next step in the process is the one that I previewed, which is that now that we have this, the regional career pathway consortiums are already working on the pathways that they identified last year and the beginning of this year to work on. So it's not something that we're going to be grabbing and regionalizing immediately. However, as we are writing our grants this spring for next year, this will be one of the pathways that we will be considering based on our labor market information and our asset scans in order to regionalize for next year. And then we'll do that exact process that I explained with getting together some of those regional partners, taking a look at the career ladder page, regionalizing that for our consortium, and then rolling that out to districts. So it's not something that's going to get jumped into immediately, but definitely with having this information, which is great, available to our districts, they know that it's coming, and that if we have districts that are really clamoring for us to pick this next year as one of the pathways that we work on, that's really helpful. So we'd love to hear from our districts if they think that this is one of the pathways we definitely need to have on our radar for next year.
Yeah, I just have to say I'm super excited about the pathway, because it is not just like we're focused just on the future of renewable energy and sustainability, but it takes a transition comprehensively, and that we can't just have an energy pathway that's focused solely on the future, because we still have all this infrastructure that is based on fossil fuels. And I have natural gas that comes to my house, and I would really like for those natural gas pipelines that come into my house, even if I don't use much natural gas, to be safe for me and for all of the neighbors around me. Like these are really important jobs, and the transmission lines that get electricity so we can have this meeting. Like I want for this stuff to work. It's so that this pathway is I think a really nice bridge between those two spaces as we go through this generational, maybe centennial transition. And we've been through other energy transitions before. That we're not inventing something new here in the, in 2022. I have a question that I've been thinking about, especially if we think about equity for all students here. We really focused on what public school students have. Are there work-based learning experiences, youth apprenticeships, and these types of experiences that are available to homeschooled students and or private school students?
That's a good question. We do work with homeschool students through youth apprenticeship. So we have one in our CSA 8 region this year that we helped to connect with one of our local employers, and she is working doing carpentry, and we also helped to connect her with the proper coursework that she would need, because it's not just about having the job, but students also need to be taking classes that support what they're learning on the job. As far as private and parochial schools, the CSAs really, our realm is the public schools. So
Right.
We work with them as far as like the youth apprenticeship and the career pathways. So that is a good question where they are with
And
this.
Adam, do you guys have any dual enrollment students who come from private schools that are earning credit at CBTC?
It's harder to do transcripted credit with homeschool students, but we do have many students that are doing what we call Start College Now. So they're actually coming to us. So they're doing online courses. So they're actually doing our courses with our instructors in whatever format we're delivering it. We also do high school academies. So the schools are paying for that. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways to get in and do your training and do that education, even if it's not through youth apprenticeship. And the other thing about youth apprenticeship, I meant to say quite a while ago, is that when we first talked to employers in the energy industry about, hey, we want to do a youth apprentice, so like a lot of people think about they want to be a lineman or a gas utility tech, or that's pretty intimidating for an employer to see that. But if we look at the other routes, those business professional careers, you can do more apprenticeships in that route, get people exposed to the energy industry, and then perhaps they maybe go on to get additional training to do those other careers and then get into a full apprenticeship versus that youth apprenticeship. So again, every industry is a little bit different. Ag is very friendly to youth apprentices. The energy industry, it's going to be a little bit harder for some of those core programs. So just be aware, very tactical approach, be very savvy looking at things. Any employer out there, we know that we need to be actively recruiting and talking to schools and students and talking to them about the pipelines to get into your organization. If you haven't figured out as an organization what those pipelines are in, that should be a top priority to figure out. How can we get people exposed, interested? It might be as simple as, if parents are coming in to pay their bill or talk to you at that energy company, you should be asking questions like, hey, do you happen to have any kids or know anybody that might be interested in a career in energy? That could be a strategy where you're inviting people to say, hey, come on in, we could talk and learn about it, do a job shadow. So again, got to be very savvy in today's world.
There we go. Thank you so much. I see that we're approaching time here. I'm wondering from our audience if there are any more questions that are out there. And otherwise, I think I'll turn it back over to Scott and Allison. I don't know if they have any closing remarks.
Thanks, Samara, and thank you to our panelists. It was a really informative discussion, and hopefully this is a resource that you all find useful. And as Adam just mentioned, think of creative ways to get folks interested in energy career pathways. We'll be taking the month of December off for our our usual Forward in Energy Forum, so it will start back up again at the end of January. So hope to see you all. And as my colleague Allison posted in the chat, check out our events page, energy.wis.edu/events, to see any of our upcoming events. Thank you all, and happy holidays.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.